There is a version of this conversation that starts with the great white shark. There is a version that starts with the orca. There is a version that starts with the Siberian tiger or the polar bear or the saltwater crocodile's own freshwater cousin. And all of those versions are reasonable starting points for a conversation about apex predators because all of those animals are genuinely impressive and genuinely dangerous and genuinely deserve the category they've been assigned. But here is the problem with every one of those starting points. Every one of those animals is a specialist. The great white is optimized for open ocean pursuit. The orca is optimized for coordinated pack intelligence. The tiger is optimized for forest ambush in cold climates. They are all running a highly refined version of one specific operational model, and they are very good at it. The saltwater crocodile is not a specialist. The saltwater crocodile is the most generalized apex predator that has ever existed on this planet in the sense that it can kill effectively in more environments, across a wider range of prey sizes, using a wider variety of hunting methods, sustained by a more flexible metabolism, armored by a more comprehensive physical protection system, with a longer operational lifespan and a broader geographic range than any other apex predator alive or recently extinct. It does not excel at one thing. It excels at everything that matters, and it has been doing so continuously for over 200 million years through conditions that ended the careers of animals that were, by any reasonable assessment, more impressive looking than a crocodile. The dinosaurs went. The megalodon went. The woolly mammoth went. The saltwater crocodile watched all of that happen and then went back to what it was doing. That is not a predator still in development. That is the finished product. Everything else is still catching up. Start with the range because the range is where the saltwater crocodile's generalist advantage becomes immediately legible. The saltwater crocodile is found from the eastern coast of India across Southeast Asia through Indonesia, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Palau, and northern Australia. It is the most widely distributed crocodilian on Earth, and it has earned that distribution not through passive dispersal, but through active open ocean travel. The saltwater crocodile swims in the open ocean, not near the coast, not in brackish estuaries. In the open ocean, using ocean currents to navigate between islands and land masses, covering distances of hundreds of miles on recorded occasions. A tracking study in Australia followed a saltwater crocodile that traveled 590 kilometers in 25 days through open ocean. That is a freshwater-associated reptile conducting a multi-week open ocean voyage with directional accuracy that implies navigational capability. Researchers believe saltwater crocodiles use ocean currents deliberately, riding favorable currents when they're moving in the right direction and wading in calmer water when they're not, which is a level of environmental awareness that makes the saltwater crocodile one of the very few reptiles documented using weather and oceanographic conditions as tools. It didn't get its range by accident. It surveyed the available territory and moved into it. The physical hardware is the part of this conversation that most people have partially right and completely wrong at the same time. Everyone knows the bite force. 3,700 pounds per square inch, the strongest recorded bite of any animal, capable of producing forces comparable to damage sustained in vehicle collisions. That number is correct, and it is impressive, and it is also almost beside the point because the bite force, on its own, tells you the least important thing about why the saltwater crocodile's physical package is so comprehensively dangerous. The teeth are more important than the bite force. Crocodilian teeth are not serrated like a shark's. They are conical, thick, round-sectioned, and designed specifically to penetrate and grip rather than to slice. What this means in practice is that once a saltwater crocodile has bitten something, that thing is in custody. The conical teeth sink into tissue and bone and hold. There is no anatomy in the natural world that produces a reliable escape from a saltwater crocodile bite. The teeth are retention devices. The bite force is what drives them in. The combination produces a grip that prey cannot break and that the crocodile does not need to maintain actively. The geometry of the tooth-tissue interface does the retention work, while the crocodile does the drowning work. The death roll is the finishing move, and it is more mechanically sophisticated than its name suggests. The saltwater crocodile spins on its longitudinal axis while holding prey in its jaws, using the rotational force to dismember the prey into pieces it can swallow because the teeth that are so good at gripping are useless for chewing. The death roll is not a struggle. It is a disassembly process. And the crocodile's ability to continue it while submerged, holding prey underwater, breathing through nostrils held barely above the surface, and sustaining the rotational force with a tail that stores fat like a camel's hump and powers movement like a biological propeller, is a testament to an energy management system with no equivalent in the animal kingdom. The armor is what separates the saltwater crocodile's physical package from every other apex predators, and it is worth going through in detail because it is more than just thick skin. The osteoderms, the bony plates embedded in the crocodile's skin, do several things simultaneously that individually would each be remarkable and together constitute one of the most comprehensive passive defense systems in biology. They stop teeth, not blunt them, stop them. The osteoderm layer is mineralized bone embedded in the dermis, and the mineralization is dense enough that the teeth of most animals that might attempt to prey on a crocodile, which is a very short list, cannot penetrate it. There are documented cases of crocodiles absorbing gunshots and continuing. Not every caliber, not every range, but the documentation exists and it reflects a material that is doing something fundamentally different from what fur or even thick hide does. The osteoderms also function as a thermal battery. They absorb heat from the sun during basking and release it slowly when the crocodile is in cooler water, extending the active window beyond what a similarly sized ectotherm without this system could manage. They also serve as a pH buffer. When lactic acid builds up in the crocodile's body during extended breath holding, the minerals in the osteoderms dissolve slightly to release bicarbonate ions that neutralize the acid. The armor is simultaneously a weapon defense system, a thermal management system, and an internal chemistry buffer. It is doing three jobs simultaneously that most animals dedicate separate biological systems to. The saltwater crocodile's skin is more sophisticated than most animals' entire bodies. The sensory system is where the saltwater crocodile transitions from impressive physical predator to something that operates on a level most prey animals have no framework to understand or respond to. The integumentary sense organs, the small dark pits visible on a crocodile's jaw and body, are pressure sensors so sensitive they can detect the displacement of a single water drop on the surface of a pool. In complete darkness, in water with zero visibility, in conditions that would render every other predator effectively blind, the saltwater crocodile knows exactly where you are based on the pressure wave your body creates in the water. It doesn't need to see you. It doesn't need to smell you. It needs you to exist in the water near it, and the physics of your existence will tell it everything it needs to know about your location, your size, and your direction of travel. The eyes compound this. Positioned at the top of the skull so the crocodile can surveil an entire surface while presenting the smallest possible profile, the eyes have a fovea, the high-resolution center of the retina, that is shaped differently from most vertebrates. The saltwater crocodile's fovea is elongated horizontally rather than being a small central point, which means it can scan the entire horizon in high resolution without moving its head. Most animals, including humans, have to move their eyes or their head to bring different parts of a scene into sharp focus. The crocodile sees the entire horizon sharply, simultaneously, without moving anything. And it does this with one eye open, because like dolphins, crocodilians can rest half their brain at a time. The saltwater crocodile can be asleep and watching you simultaneously. The metabolic flexibility is the crocodile's strategic reserve, and it is the capability that most directly explains how the saltwater crocodile has survived conditions that ended far more metabolically demanding animals. The saltwater crocodile can go without food for over a year. Not comfortably, but functionally, without organ failure, without the kind of physiological cascade that would end a mammalian apex predator in a fraction of that time. It can sustain this because its metabolic rate is so low in a resting state that the energy expenditure of simply existing is minimal, and because the crocodile can redirect its body's resources away from non-essential functions with a precision that reflects a system evolved specifically for periods of scarcity. The heart is the mechanism. The saltwater crocodile has a four-chambered heart like mammals and birds, but with an additional valve, the foramen of Panizza, that allows it to bypass the lungs and recirculate blood directly when it's submerged. This means it can hold its breath for up to 2 hours during a dive and up to 8 hours in cold water when its metabolism drops further. It can survive being frozen into a pond by winter ice by sticking its snout above the surface and essentially turning itself off until the temperature rises. It can survive in waters contaminated with heavy metals, bacteria that would kill most animals, and pH levels that would corrode the tissue of less comprehensively engineered organisms. It can also survive injuries that would kill most animals. The crocodilian immune system is one of the most powerful documented in any vertebrate. Research has found that crocodilian blood serum is effective against bacteria including MRSA, HIV, and a range of fungal infections that defeat most pharmaceutical treatments. The saltwater crocodile lives in water environments that are bacterial soups, warm, stagnant, full of decaying organic matter, and it does so without developing the infections that would kill most animals within days. It is not just surviving this environment. It is built for it in a way that most animals' immune systems cannot conceptualize. The intelligence is the final entry in this case, and it is the one that closes the argument, because if you take everything above, the range, the hardware, the armor, the sensory system, the metabolic flexibility, the immune system, and add a cognitive layer that includes tool use, cooperative hunting, pattern recognition, individual memory, and documented strategic patience, you get something that is no longer just a very well-built predator. You get something that is actively managing its environment with a level of deliberate calculation that most people reserve in their mental model for mammals. Saltwater crocodiles have been documented using sticks as bait during bird nesting season, holding sticks on or near their snouts at the water's surface when colonial nesting birds are gathering material for nests, exploiting the birds' need for sticks to lure them within strike range. The timing is deliberate. The behavior only appears during nesting season. The crocodile is accounting for seasonality, for the specific behavioral triggers of its prey, and for the utility of a prop in creating an opportunity that wouldn't otherwise exist. That is premeditated. That is planning in a brain the size of a walnut that has apparently decided a walnut-sized brain is sufficient for the level of strategic operation it wants to run, which, looking at the track record, it clearly is. Cooperative hunting has been documented in saltwater and Nile crocodiles. Coordinated herding of fish, role rotation between active hunters and resting individuals, shared access to large prey that a single crocodile could not dismember efficiently alone. The coordination implies communication, the role rotation implies awareness of the group's collective state, and the shared access implies a social negotiation that most apex predators don't engage in because most apex predators are competing rather than cooperating. The saltwater crocodile cooperates when cooperation produces more food than competition would and competes when it doesn't, which is a level of social flexibility that most animals are not capable of. The human death toll is the data point that makes all of the above concrete rather than theoretical. The saltwater crocodile kills more humans than any other crocodilian species, more than lions, more than sharks, more than most large predators in any category. The estimates are complicated by the fact that many attacks occur in remote areas with limited reporting infrastructure and many bodies are never recovered, which means the actual number is likely significantly higher than the documented figure. What is documented is consistent enough to establish the pattern clearly. The saltwater crocodile kills people regularly, across a wide geographic range, in multiple environments, rivers, estuaries, coastlines, open beaches, and occasionally in the ocean, and does so with a success rate that reflects the physical package we've been through in this video. It is not selective. It does not specialize in human prey. It is simply an animal with zero dietary prejudice operating in environments that humans also use and applying to human-sized targets the same operational approach it applies to everything else in its prey range. The casualty rate is not the product of malice. It is the product of a predator built to kill anything it can reach in or near water and a range that overlaps significantly with some of the most densely populated coastal regions on Earth. Gustav, the Nile crocodile believed responsible for over 300 human deaths in Burundi, was never caught. Sweetheart, a saltwater crocodile in Australia's Northern Territory, attacked 14 boats between 1974 and 1979 before being captured. Not people. Boats. It attacked the outboard motors specifically, a behavior researchers believe may have been triggered by the sound and vibration of the motors resembling threatening rivals. Sweetheart weighed 780 kilograms. It attacked boats. The saltwater crocodile's threat assessment does not have a ceiling calibrated to its own size. It has a ceiling calibrated to whatever it has decided it can engage with. And the historical record suggests it has decided it can engage with most things. That is not a predator in beta. That is a predator that shipped its final version 200 million years ago, has not needed a single update since, and has been watching everything that came after it try to catch up. Drink water. Hug your mother. If you are in northern Australia and someone tells you not to swim in a particular body of water, that is not a suggestion. See you in the next one.